Hello, everyone. Welcome to our session on modernizing parcel mapping in Canada, focusing on ArcGIS Pro. My name is Dave Horwood. I will be presenting with Hung Jiang from the City of Mississauga and Heather Page, who works with me at Esri Canada. Hung Jiang is a GIS analyst maintaining Parcel Fabric from the City of Mississauga's data management group in geospatial solutions. Heather Page and I are from the Land Information Solutions Professional Services team. We are responsible for assisting Canadian customers implementing and optimizing their land administration and land records. Hi, everybody. Just a reminder, we will be recording this session today and expect an email from us after the session. When you receive the email, please share your thoughts afterwards on the exit survey. And if you have any questions about the content we're presenting, please use the Q&A panel. Be sure to choose Ask All Panelists, type your question in the box and click Send. We'll take questions at the end of the session, but feel free to type your question in at any time. So let's move on to the agenda. So we're going to provide a little context for parcel mapping and modernization. We're going to be looking at parcel mapping in ArcGIS Pro, some of our parcel fabric modernization projects, what they look like. The City of Mississauga is going to present a customer success story. Then we'll look at parcel mapping maintenance workflows and sort of live in a demo format. And then we'll close off with looking at the community property map of Canada and a Canada Land service that we provide. So next we'll go into the context. So we've had a good decade's run with the ArcMap parcel fabric. Some of the highlights: it had a structured data model. It was well suited to managing parcels. It had explicit topology and tools to maintain the data quality, including something like least squares adjustment. A particular aspect about it is you're able to maintain accurate dimensions while also fitting to surrounding parcels. So the geometry didn't necessarily have to fit the recorded attributes, but we could maintain both. And then we developed a Canadian version of the parcel data model that we've been able to deploy across Canada. And there's quite a few different agencies currently using the ArcMap parcel fabric, both large and small, entire provinces, and smaller municipalities. And they've been using it in production for a long time. As I said, it's been out there for nearly a decade. However, there have been some limitations and pain points. It's really a separate ecosystem. You have to use a separate set of tools to edit. It's difficult to edit larger parcels in the loop. The least squares, although it was a novel capability, without some additional tools, we had limited adjustment capabilities. It was only available on ArcMap, so it was only provided. You couldn't do anything via web services or beyond. So ArcMap is retiring, so we have the new kid on the block. ArcGIS Pro has been around for a while, but the ArcGIS Pro parcel fabric has really only been around since about 2019. And really the main one that we would have implemented, or the one that our customers would have been implemented, would be 2.6, which was around 2020. It provides, it sort of adds on to the ArcMap parcel fabric. It provides a comprehensive framework for managing, editing, and sharing the data. There's both record-driven and quality-driven workflows. And you can also implement with the task environment in ArcGIS Pro, you can use task-driven workflows to standardize. It's based on a service-based architecture from the get-go and uses branch versioning, so it can be shared across all platforms. And all of these enabling improved efficiency and quality of services. So if we look at parcel mapping in ArcGIS Pro, from the outset, it was designed to kind of be a kind of re-looking at take on the successes of ArcMap, but build upon and address some of the limitations. So there's both record-driven and quality-driven workflows, where the record-driven are normally driven by some sort of legal documents when it's triggered, whereas quality-driven can occur at any time. And most of our customers want an authoritative source, and they manage a system of record. So the records provide the update, but the quality also promotes trust in the system. And then one particular aspect that was carried over from ArcMap is the ability to store historical parcels. So the idea of chain of title that stores a sequence of property ownership, you don't have to necessarily delete superseded parcels. They just become historic and they can be maintained. So this is a particular aspect that was in ArcMap that was carried on to the Pro. It's the dual depiction of the legal and the physical world. It was also carried on from ArcMap. We can associate cadastral features to the legal source, and we can also have an envelope, an automatic footprint of legal transactions. So this was something that was tabular in ArcMap that becomes geographic or spatial in Pro. We can maintain the land descriptions, meets and bounds, area descriptions, natural features, or coordinate-based cadasters. And then it's designed to be robust and scalable. So both from a single user point of view and file-based geodatabase full-on enterprise with multi-user editing. Now the Parcel Fabric data model is slightly different than the ArcMap data model. The Parcel Fabric is the controller data set that basically controls everything else. In the creation of a Parcel Fabric, it creates records, connection lines, endpoints. In addition to those elements, it also creates a bunch of quality parts to it. So the records record what legal documents or records are recorded in the system. Connection lines are connections between elements that may not be related to a particular parcel, and then points reflect common locations on the ground. Then in the Parcel Fabric, for each parcel type, it has its own set of polygons and lines, which is a little bit different from ArcMap. So it provides a little bit more flexibility and schema and other things, but there's individual parcel types for those. And then the Parcel Fabric itself stores a number of topology rules and optional attribute rules, which maintain quality. And then you can interrogate error features in order to incrementally improve the Parcel Fabric. In addition to the Parcel Fabric in ArcMap, we had the out-of-the-box model we extended into a Canadianized version called the Canadian Parcel Data Model. We've extended this also to Pro. So it allows us to store a number of standard parcel types with a standard set of attributes that can be extended that can be mapped to anywhere in Canada. Provides a common framework and a common way to access the data. And then Parcel Fabric maintenance in Pro is designed to be less special. In ArcMap, it was predominantly a series of tools that could only be used with the Parcel Fabric, and you were limited to those tools. In ArcGIS Pro, it's really the tools there are still some tools specific to the Parcel Fabric, which are provided. There's some additional alignment and least squares adjustment capabilities that provide an enhanced experience. But then there's also parcel awareness that's built into the out-of-the-box tools. So if you do a split, you're just using a normal split tool. When it's a parcel, it understands that that split is also going to send the superseded parcel to history. So it's no longer a separate set of tools. You just have to use the same tools within the ArcGIS Pro to maintain the Parcel Fabric that you would be to maintaining anything else. And then when we look at data quality, there's really two aspects of data quality. Once the parcel fabric is created, a geodatabase topology is created with a number of core topology rules that can be extended if necessary, if there's additional tools, rules that you want. There you can also define a lot of attribute rules, which we find very useful, so that you can add attribute rules that will both check features but also can auto-populate. So it becomes a sort of a core aspect to the maintenance of the quality within the parcel fabric. And then the ability to use tasks in Pro, this is a general capability, but it really lends itself to the parcel fabric in Pro. So generally speaking, when you're going to edit parcels, you generally do the same types of things over and over again. They can be encapsulated into a set of tasks. In most cases, in professional services implementations, we deliver the tasks as part of the professional services and even train on the tasks. So in this particular case, we've got record-driven workflows and quality-driven workflows. It allows you to repeat the same operations or have, it's a good training vehicle as well. It's also built on ArcGIS Enterprise. So it's built on enterprise and branch versioning. It requires the version management service, and it also requires a parcel fabric user type, which is anybody with the user type can edit the parcel fabric. Anybody without the user type can still view the parcel fabric, but they can't edit. So it provides an additional level of security. And then you have undo and redo capabilities on feature services. And the branch versioning combines the capabilities of traditional versioning and archiving, which we leveraged in the ArcMap parcel fabric. So the service-based architecture really unlocks the possibilities of developing new apps. In every new release of the parcel fabric, there are more and more capabilities that are built in the REST API, so that you can not only deal with it in Pro, you can also deal with it directly with the REST API. It makes it easier to share with other departments or even to the public. And it's always looking forward to the future. So there's some big plans with parcel editing, in particular dealing with improvements to least squares have already been incorporated in the latest releases. They're looking at 3D cadasters, so the ability to maintain parcels in 3D space. For example, units in condominiums or arbitrary area parcels or air parcels. There's further functionalities going to go into the REST API. They're also focusing on being able to edit in the field so that you can use mobile geodatabase and SQLite to extract and synchronize, and also looking at a little bit of the ultimate, but dealing with easily ingesting digital submissions from predominantly this would be surveyors or from professionals. And then not everything obviously can be stuck in the parcel fabric. We do tend to get more things in Pro than otherwise, but for features that are aligned to the parcel fabric, but not necessarily in the parcel fabric, there are both core tools and Esri Canada developed tools for keeping things in alignment. So we can both establish alignment. For example, if your zoning doesn't quite align with your parcels, we have tools that can help align it. And then as the parcel fabric goes, it records the position, changing position of points in the branch versioning that can be leveraged to generate parcel links. And what the parcel links can be used is to update features. So if you've taken zoning, you align it to the parcel fabric, a month later, you can use those vectors to realign your zoning to the parcel fabric. So it provides a lot of capabilities for maintaining just beyond the parcel fabric itself.
Thanks, Dave. So We thought we'd take a couple minutes and just talk about some of the Parcel Fabric modernization projects that we've worked on and share some lessons learned. Because I think one of the big hurdles about looking at parcels in ArcGIS Pro is getting your current data into it. So to date, Esri Canada has helped a few different organizations move to ArcGIS Pro. So there's one municipal customer who's currently in production in parcel mapping and has been for almost a year now. We have Hung with us today, who's going to tell us a little bit more about their migration to ArcGIS Pro. We also have a number of different municipalities who are currently in the process of upgrading to ArcGIS Pro. So they are not in production yet, but working towards it. And then we also have a few large customers who are working on the planning process of upgrading to ArcGIS Pro. So in terms of a migration, this is just a really high-level overview of what we normally do and try to strive towards when we're looking at moving from whether it's ArcMap or whether it's from another system. You typically have some sort of legacy environment that you need to maintain while you're going through the modernization process. And we like to do everything in staging geodatabases and ArcGIS Enterprise deployments just to make sure everything is working correctly before moving over into production. So most cases we'll start off with project planning and discovery and finish up all the way into the post-deployment support. Now, in between those steps, there's a number of different sort of things that we're looking at. Firstly, looking at data modeling, migration and transition workflows and getting a handle on what those will look like in order to set up the rest of the parcel migration. From there, we like to take an iterative approach. So looking at data migration and doing a test migration, and then also taking a look at how that migration impacts things like the parcel mapping update workflows, any publication or business system integrations, and going back to that initial data migration and making sure that it is set up along with the data model so that everything moving forward will be as seamless as possible. From there, with all that knowledge that we have and all of the migration, the ArcGIS Pro migration that we've done, and any other pieces that we've put in, whether that be an ArcGIS Pro project with tasks, we use all that for custom end user training. We find it to be the most effective when customers are using their own data to get familiar with how the parcel fabric works, because everyone has such a very varied workflow, varied parcels. It's really important to understand how your specific parcel fabric works. And then going into deployment and making sure that everything is still working once you've gone into production. So with that, a couple of the lessons that we've learned that we'd like to share with everyone that will help hopefully get through some of the gotchas that we ran into during some of our migrations is first off, making sure you take the time to plan out your parcel modernization efforts. It is an undertaking and you want to make sure that you have both the resources and the funding in place before you start diving into it. The next thing is making sure that you don't ignore issues in your data. So it's really great to quickly throw the parcel fabric into Pro. There's some tools that will get it done in a couple steps. But in reality, just throwing your parcel fabric into ArcGIS Pro, you might not be optimizing it for ArcGIS Pro. So you could end up with some performance implications or making it a lot more difficult to go through your maintenance workflows. So we like to use that as a first step, but then taking a good look at how it looks in ArcGIS Pro, what is there, and cleaning up the data model and cleaning up the data as well to make sure that you're set up so that you're not bringing your old problems into a new system. The next point that we found to really be a lesson that we wanted to share was to socialize the parcel fabric iteratively and with interactive training. So the parcel editors, they're the ones who are using this on a day-to-day basis, and it's important to keep them in the loop throughout the whole process. They understand what is going on and how it needs to be used. So having them involved at the beginning to help with the planning process and then going through training with them as well to make sure that everyone understands what's going on. They can ask questions. They'll likely be able to see potential errors or potential things that could be cleaned up more so than some other people. So making sure everyone's working together and everyone's involved in all the steps will really set you up for success. And then lastly, if you're doing a migration, it's a great time to take a step back and consider what other collaborative approaches you could include to increase the productivity and strengthen engagement and adoption with your stakeholders. So whether that's looking into digital plan submissions, whether that's looking at taking different parcel types, whether it's title or assessment or others, and bringing it all together into one system so you're not having to duplicate effort. Maybe it's creating a heat map of accuracy to get an idea of what areas of your parcel fabric could be improved, and potentially putting in and looking at some change vectors to make sure that other features can be aligned to the parcel fabric. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Hung, who's going to share with us a little bit of information about the City of Mississauga's migration to ArcGIS Pro.
Thank you, Heather. The City of Mississauga is the sixth largest city in Canada and is located in the province of Ontario with a population of around 721,000 people. It is located to the west of Toronto and is within an hour driving distance from Niagara Falls and Buffalo, New York. So we manage over 165,000 parcels covering 292 square kilometers. And at an organizational level, we are part of the Geospatial Solutions team and IT division under the Corporate Services Department. Our group consists of 43 GIS, IT, and data professionals, dedicated 3D specialists, while supporting various departments within the city. So our platforms include Esri for GIS, Bentley for CAD, Infor for work orders, inspections, and assets, with SQL Server and Oracle for backend databases. So as parcel data is our foundation data set, it was critical for Mississauga to have a reliable and current parcel product. With the support of Esri Canada's land information team, the City of Mississauga was successful in implementing the ArcGIS Pro parcel fabric. So in the following slides, I'll touch upon the City of Mississauga's legacy system, overview of the parcel fabric setup in our environment, provide some metrics and the benefits that came out of the parcel mapping modernization project. At the City of Mississauga, many of our data have been maintained through a highly customized CAD environment and with in-house developed VBA code. Maintenance of the property fabric at the city consisted of interconnected systems with processes running overnight to sync the data across. The graphics were maintained in CAD using MicroStation with customized VBA interface to digitize the parcel information. The tabular data is maintained in a separate enterprise-wide system called MAX running on an Oracle platform. The workflow starts with MAX where the city PIN number is created, and then the graphics is associated to the city PIN through VBA scripts, along with scheduled overnight jobs, syncing the two information together. As the City of Mississauga is quite large in size, the city is indexed into 59 zones, or Z areas as we call it, with some Z areas being split further into east and west section, bringing the actual total to 79. So with 79 Z areas, this translated to 79 individual CAD files. So if there were multiple users updating the same Z area, one would have to wait until the first user has finished their update so it was not really a true multi-user editing environment in this case. With 79 individual files, there were room for errors such as alignment with adjoining Z areas and between various parcel types. Alignment issues would introduce unwanted slivers in the zones if the zones were not properly referenced when updating the parcel boundaries near the edges. There was not many topological validations tools that were available in the CAD environment. Where there was any type of validation, it was through customized VBA scripts. In terms of historical parcel information, the tabular information is maintained in MAX through the parent-child relationship. So viewing the parcel history graphically was never readily available and was a tedious task to go and find whether backup copies or snapshots of the parcel data existed. For survey plans, In order to capture new parcels, digital survey plans are georeferenced into CAD environment and is used for heads-up digitizing the parcel information. In terms of managing and storing georeferenced survey plans, the city did not have a proper workflow in place to deal with saving the georeferenced plan. So if another user requires the same survey plan in their work, they would need to georeference the plan themselves. So this becomes duplicated effort and was not very efficient when there were multiple users wanting the same plan georeferenced within their own CAD environment or workspace. So many of the processes in the legacy system made sense at the time, but is no longer efficient. So migrating to the Parcel Fabric environment in Esri helped in modernizing the city's parcel maintenance. As we work through the various stages outlined in the parcel mapping modernization timeline with the land information team at Esri Canada, we were successful in migrating our CAD data across into the Parcel Fabric. The ArcGIS Pro Parcel Fabric system we now have implemented at the city is using version 3 of the Parcel Fabric alongside ArcGIS Pro version 2.6 and Enterprise version 10.8.1. So we are dependent on our Enterprise version, which is why we are not at the latest Parcel Fabric version available. The parcel fabric of the city is leveraging the Canadian parcel data model, consisting of simple features with record-driven workflows. There are standard attributes in the parcel fabric, along with the Canadianized domain list. The record-driven workflows provides the association between the parcel and its record that either created or retired them. We are using the parcel fabric through branch versioning along with user type licensing. Instead of checking out the data directly from the enterprise geodatabase, how traditional versioning is done, the user would check out the version from the feature service. So this ties in with the Esri's user type licensing, as users on portal would need to have proper user type set on their account to be able to edit the parcel fabric through the feature service. So this is a great way to control who edits, who has editing permissions on the service in this manner. With the parcel fabric data model, we have set up only 3 parcel types. We opted not to add in too many parcel types, as it would have taken more time and effort to complete the overall project. So what we've ended up setting up for the parcel types are the the property parcel type, which contains lines and polygons that make up the city's parcel fabric. The survey parcel type, which contains the lines and polygons from survey plans making up the parts, blocks, and other relating information that would form the parcels. And then finally, we have the encumbrance. Encumbrance parcel type holds the city's easement data. Prior to this, there was a separate maintenance process in the CAD environment for the easement data. As easement information is tied to the property, it made sense to bring this data across into the parcel fabric. So this ensured that the topological relationship between the easement and parcel boundary would align. So for instance, if a parcel was adjusted through data quality workflows, any parcel types that are in the parcel fabric sharing the same boundary would be adjusted accordingly without the need to edit each individually and ensuring that they match. The parcel fabric has topology and attribute rules, which help to enforce data quality and standards. Topology aids in the alignment between the different parcel types within the parcel fabric based on its relationship. So it also ensures data integrity, such as no overlapping features or no gaps between the polygons. There were custom attribute rules that were set up, which auto-populated fields and performed data entry validations to maintain data standards through the parcel fabric. We have annotations being maintained in ArcGIS Pro in conjunction with the parcel fabric, because the CAD files had various labels cartographically in the correct placement across the city. These labels were used extensively and is still required as part of the downstream product. For digital survey plans, so when working with the survey plans in the legacy system, They had to be georeferenced, and once done, the process repeats again when the plan is required another time. So during migration, it was suggested to maintain these plans as part of the Mosaic dataset. So keeping in mind that the Mosaic dataset is not part of the Parcel Fabric setup, it's a standalone dataset. The Mosaic dataset is used to manage, display, and share the raster data across the organization, and is currently being used alongside the Parcel Fabric to maintain any of the new survey plans that we receive and are referenced. So basically, this is the overall setup of our Parcel Fabric system and has been in production now for a little under a year. In terms of metrics, with the Parcel Fabric now in production, the following information just provides a general idea on the time savings we have seen between the CAD environment and the Parcel Fabric in Esri. So the bulk of the time happens during the attribution process, which is basically syncing data and any relationships through tables between CAD and Max. So attribution ran as part of the customized VBA scripts, but have been rewritten in Python to work with ArcGIS Pro Parcel Fabric. We maintain over 165,000 parcels, and on a monthly average, there's about anywhere between 30 to 40 splits and consolidations based on updates received from Terranet and Impact reports. For daily updates in the CAD environment, running through the attribution process would take anywhere between 20 to 30 minutes, and then sometimes longer if working on more than one Z area. So now with ArcGIS Pro Parcel Fabric, the same process takes around 5 minutes and no longer than 7 minutes, no matter how many Z areas are processed throughout the day. On a monthly basis, we would run a citywide attribution process that took between 4 to 5 hours in CAD. Now in ArcGIS Pro Fabric, it's just roughly under 2 hours. So as you can see, that pretty much is a great deal of time saved throughout the whole processing. So the benefits that were realized through this modernization project, the ArcGIS Pro workspace that have been configured along with the tasks provide for consistent and structured workflow when maintaining the Parcel Fabric. There's attribute rules, provided calculations and validation. It saves time and maintains the integrity of the data while improving the overall quality of the parcel boundaries. We had Python scripting. It maintained our business requirements and removed the need to modify any existing backend processes that were there. As the GIS environment is capable of handling large amount of data, we now maintain a citywide parcel dataset. So this eliminated the need to maintain 79 individual files, which also removes the topology issues along adjacent Z areas. Other benefits realized was parcel history and archiving provides the ability to easily retrieve snapshots in time from the enterprise geodatabase. And Survey Mosaic. Survey Mosaic maintains all the georeference plans in one location and is easily retrievable now. So by modernizing the city parcels mapping and into ArcGIS Pro Parcel Fabric, analysis is made easier without having to jump around to different systems and bringing in different data together. Yeah, we appreciate the effort and knowledge from Esri Canada's land information team and what they were able to bring to the table for this project. So yeah, we don't think we would have been able to successfully implement the Parcel Fabric if we did this ourselves. Thank you. And with that, I'll turn it back to Heather.
Thanks, Hung. All right, so we have a demo for you all with some parcel mapping maintenance workflows. So this demo was put together by one of Hung's colleagues, Ketty. Unfortunately, WebEx decided that we could only share either the video or the audio. So we went with video, and I'll be providing some live narration. But just a little plug here, we did do a longer webinar with the Esri Inc.'s Parcel Fabric meetup, which includes this demo, and it's narrated by Ketty herself. And there's a lot of other great information. So I'm going to plug that. We'll put some links to it at the end if you're interested in seeing the demo in its original format, but I'll do my best to do it justice. So this workflow, like any workflow in ArcGIS Pro, you start off with creating a version. Now, because we're doing a demo here, Ketty didn't actually put it into a version, but that would be step number one before we start any sort of editing process. So in this case, Ketty's received a new plan, and she has to put it in and update the parcel fabric based off of it. So she'll pull up the parcel fabric or the new survey plan that needs to be brought in and get some information as to whereabouts it is so that she can locate it on the map in ArcGIS Pro. So there's an intersection there, so she can use that information in Pro. So the locate tool can be used and it uses either your own data, or in this case, you can just use the Esri World Geocoder and put in that road intersection and navigate to the general area of where it is. From there, she can reference the plan again and get a little bit more context as to where it needs to be, so she can zero in on the right location and the right parcel that will need to be split. So as you can see in the middle of the screen, she has the parcel there, that's property parcel, that will need to be split. So the first thing that needs to be done is to update the survey parcel type and then update the property. So to save herself from jumping back and forth between the plan and ArcGIS Pro, she can bring in the TIFF of the plan and georeference it directly in ArcGIS Pro. So using the georeference tools, she can fit the image to the display and start putting control points from the image over to the parcel corners that already exist. As she does that, it starts to move along with how she's doing it since she's left the auto apply on. And because this is just being used for reference, it doesn't need to be exact. It just needs to be in the general location to provide some context and make it a little bit easier for any updates to happen, that she's not jumping around. It's all right there in one location. So as she goes through and kind of eyeballs in the plan, she can take a look, and once it matches up enough that it's generally in the right location, she can save what she's doing here and then click close on the georeferencing tab. Now, as Hung mentioned, they used to have to georeference things in multiple times. So what they've done instead is they've created a survey mosaic. And once the raster is georeferenced, it can be added to that survey mosaic. So everything is in one same location, making it a lot easier to get back to them later on, but also to share between different editors. The other nice thing about the survey mosaic, if we she'll turn off the TIFF and turn on the survey mosaic, we can see it's been updated in there, is that it can provide additional attributes as well. So if we zoom out, we can see the footprint there. And if we select it, we can add the attributes. Now, the City of Mississauga maintains PDF versions of all of their plans. So she can just add in the link to that plan. And that way it's stored in the same survey mosaic and easily accessible. No hunting around in different systems to find the TIFF version versus the PDF version. So in this case, if she goes to Explore and clicks on it, the pop-up will open up, and it's been configured to show the link there, and clicking on it will bring up the PDF version, making it a lot more convenient to find everything. All right, so now that there's some context for it, she can go ahead and start the parcel editing workflow. So like any record-driven workflow in the parcel fabric, she'll go ahead and she'll start by creating a record. So with this record, she'll give it a name, so she can call it the same name as the survey itself, making it easy to reference that back. She'll choose which record type it is, and then choose a recorded date. And the recorded date is when it was registered in the land registration office. So once she creates it, that record will be set as the active record, and any features that are added or removed will be associated with that record. So the first thing to put in is the control points. Now, the City of Mississauga doesn't COGO all of their plans in, so they're not absolutely necessary right now, but they still like to add in the control points because at some point in the future, they may decide to use least squares adjustment and they'd like to have it in there and not have to go back to all of these plans and re-add in those control points. So by going into the create and clicking on constrained, they can add in the control points by doing a right click, clicking absolute XYZ, and typing in those those X and Y coordinates. In this case, they're in the same coordinate system as the rest of the parcel fabric, but sometimes there needs to be some transformations done. So once the first one's in there, she can go into the attributes and update that name to make sure that she knows which control point that is. And then the same can be done for the second control point as well. So right-clicking on the parcel fabric in the map, absolute XYZ, and adding in that coordinate. So once the name is in there, the points layer can be turned off just to make the display a little bit cleaner. And we can continue on. So the City of Mississauga maintains a number of lines in their connection lines layer, and those can be used as a starting point when adding in new parcels. So what Ketty's doing here is she's selecting lines that already exist. Because these are coming from CAD initially, they might not be perfectly closed, but she can clean those up later. So the Copy Lines to tool allows you to copy lines into other features so long as they're turned on. So she's just going back there and grabbing the right parcel type for survey and copying it too. The other nice thing about this is it sets it so it shows only the features that are in the active record. So it's hidden all the rest of the features and makes it a little bit easier to work in there. By updating the attribute for the survey line level type to reference plan, she makes sure that everything is attributed correctly. And she can go in and just make sure that the lines are perfectly closed. It's important with parcels that the line work is a closed loop because when creating parcel polygons, it uses seeds, which determines where there's a closed loop and creates the start of what the polygon will be based off of that. So going in and cleaning up the line work now will save her some trouble later. So once she has the closed loop, she needs to take a look at the lines and make sure that they're split where they need to be. As I mentioned before, they don't COGO things in, so she wants to have endpoints at all of the intersections to make it really easy to add in those new interior lines. So she's just selecting, making sure that things are split in the right spot, and this bottom line here is not. So there's a tool for that. The great thing about ArcGIS Pro is we've got all of the out-of-the-box tools, so she can go and find the regular divide tool and use that to split this line up. So she can choose the varying distance and she can start typing in those distances. This is where the survey mosaic behind comes in handy because the information is right there. So she's just flipped it around to make sure it's going from the right end of the line and can continue putting in the rest of the distances. What it will do as it goes along is it will update the remaining COGO length at the end. So she can take a look at that last piece and make sure that it matches up with what is there. And when she's happy with it, click divide, and that will chop that line up into the 5 different lines that she needs. So the same can be done on the other side. So she can go ahead and select that other one and use that divide tool one more time. So on this side, as she's putting in the lengths, we can, if you notice, there's that little piece at the end that was missing that she had added in that wasn't included in this line. So when she gets to the end, there will be a slight difference between the COGO length and the length that's set there, but it is within their level of accuracy, and that's not a problem to be a centimeter off for what they need to maintain. So now that that is divided up, she can go ahead and start creating the interior lines. Since everything's broken up, she can just take that editing tool, the create tool, and start creating the lines, snapping to the endpoints. Now, if she was COGOing all of these in, she would have to do each line one by one, but because the level of accuracy that they need can be maintained based off of generating COGO attributes after the fact, she can just create each of these lines and then split them afterwards. In terms of the curve, she'll have to COGO that in. So once she starts the line off, she can right click and that will bring up the circular arc, and she can type in the information that's on the plan. So the chord direction, the radius, and the arc length as well. And that will create the curve that she needs. So from there, she can finish off the line, and she can just use the tools down at the bottom bar to switch back to that straight line segment. So now that the lines are in place, they need to be split up. So wherever there's an intersection, we need to split the lines. And again, there's a tool for that. So she can select all of the lines in there, and then going into that tools drop down, there's a planarize line tool, and that will split them at the intersections if they're not already split there. And now that all the lines are correctly split up, the Update COGO tool can be used to get the distance and directions information added to the attributes of each of these lines. So from there, now that the lines are in place, the Create Seeds tool can be used to create the starting of the polygons. This is really great for QA to make sure that your line work is actually closed. She can also go in and update the names of those. So the sequential numbering tool is fantastic if you have a similar naming convention across all the parcels that you're looking at. So she can set the layer, set the format to how she would like it to be, so part and then the number, and then trace over all of those polygon seeds, and that will automatically name them based off of the sequence. So she'll have parts 1 all the way to part 10. Once they're named, she can go in and build the parcels, and that will take the seed and create the parcel polygon based on the geometry of the bounding lines. The additional information that she's put in with the names is transferred over to those polygons as well. So now that the survey parcels are all complete, she can go ahead and start updating the property parcels as well. So she's going to create a new record for the property. Now she could use the same record because it's coming from the same plan, or she could decide to create a new parcel record. For the sake of this demo, she'll just put in a little bit of information that isn't the most accurate, just since you've already seen how to create a record, and she'll click create. So from here, the new record is active, and she can go ahead and turn off the survey layer since she doesn't need the survey polygons. But the survey lines can be used to split up the property that's underneath. So she can get the regular out-of-the-box split tool and select all of those interior lines to use the select by feature method. So those will be used as the input feature, and then she can select the property parcel and use that as the target feature. So that split will create new parcels, and based on an attribute rule that was added, they'll each be named name parcel, which is just an indicator that that parcel needs to be updated in terms of the name, because there's additional attribute rules that force to maintain quality. But before looking at the parcels, there's a quick fix that needs to be done on those lines, and that's just updating an attribute. There's an attribute rule to make sure that the line level is set, so she can select all those lines at once and update it to property boundary. Now that those lines are set correctly, she can go ahead and update the parcel names. So again, jumping back to that sequential numbering tool, in this case, she can select property and set what the pins are going to be, or the A roll. So in that case, it's just a number. She can choose what the start value is and how to increment it, and select the parcels that need to follow that pattern. For the two parcels up at the top, those are what they consider the unassessed parcels, or the 999 parcels. And there's an attribute rule set up that when 999 is typed into the name, it automatically updates it with the next number in a sequence. There's also some attribute rules for ward and Z area to do a spatial overlay, and that way they're not having to type any of that in. There's a number of attribute rules that were set up to maintain data integrity. So with that name, it has to be numeric, it has to be 8 numbers long, and it has to be unique. So now that the split is done, she's just going to show quickly what a merge looks like, because that's also an interesting piece. So when you create a new feature from a merge, again, she gets that name parcel, but similar to the split, it is parcel aware. So once she creates that name in there, she can take a look at what's going on behind the scenes. So if she turns on the history, she can see that the larger parcel that was split up during that split is available, and that can be queried and taken a look at visually. Same with those two parcels that were available during that merge, originally from the merge. So that she can get information about those parcels. She can see the records that were associated when they were created, as well as retired. So once she's done taking a look, the end of this workflow is just to save and reconcile and post. All right, so the last piece of our puzzle here is our community property map of Canada and the Canada Land Service. So we just wanted to highlight what we've been working on. So every day, thousands of organizations in multiple industries across Canada use authoritative cadastral data in their operations. Canada Lands Management System is the foundation of our economy and our society, and is maintained by land title organizations, assessment authorities, municipal governments, and surveyors. But this cadastral information resides in many different systems spread over all the provinces and the territories, the federal government, and thousands of municipalities. So there's no single consistent way to access and analyze essential information, which can cause some inefficiencies and lower productivity. So land information needs are not all local in nature. More and more, we see organizations needing to access information remotely and across many different jurisdictions. And the need for parcel data is present in so many different industries across Canada in their day-to-day operations, and this data needs to be acquired from those authoritative sources, whether that be land titles, whether that be assessment, zoning, or any other types of parcel-related sources. So with all of these different sources comes the struggle of navigating the different user interfaces, figuring out what the licensing and costs requirements are. And this impacts all levels of government, First Nations, as well as businesses. So the land information team put our thinking caps on, and we came up with the Community Property Map of Canada, which is an online national property mapping application that provides a single view of property rights, assessed values, and land use across the country. This application serves as a single gateway into the authoritative federal, provincial, and municipal property information systems, and provides centralized access to critical land and property attributes. Similar to the community map of Canada, we're constantly working on adding new sources to the application and finding new authoritative sites to connect into it. But this is not the community map of Canada. The property is the key word in there. So how does it work? When a user opens the app, they can search for an area that they're interested in. And then from there, they can click on a property and get pop-ups for any data that's available in that area, whether it's land title data, assessment data, zoning data, or other parcel-related data. These pop-ups give an overview of the information that's publicly available, but also links out to related authoritative sites where possible. So this does not mean that we're giving away data and that anything behind a gateway becomes accessible. The Community Property Map of Canada simply helps users navigate to the authoritative sites, and once they're there, they can input any credentials they have to access further information. So all payments and licenses are still managed by those authoritative sites. We're just providing a way to get access to them a little bit more efficiently. So in order to access the Community Property Map of Canada, we have a web page. If you go to canadaproperty.maps.arcgis.com, there's information like a story map, there's the demo, and there's also a user guide. And then of course, we have the application linked right on the homepage there. So on top of the Community Property Map of Canada, we also realized that Canada Lands parcel mapping is a significant piece of mapping that a lot of people need to have access to. And NRCan has done such a great job at bringing together overall land information infrastructure throughout Canada. So this mapping is continuous and maintained by NRCan and uses modern parcel mapping techniques and extends across many geographic regions. In an effort to make the Canada Lands parcel mapping data more readily accessible to the larger GIS community, we've created a public feature service that provides seamless, up-to-date national coverage of the mapping that NRCan maintains. It can be consumed within the Community Property Map of Canada, or the feature service can be added to any desktop, web, or mobile application that you might be using. So a couple key points about the Canada Land Service. It comes from the Natural Resources Canada's Canada Lands digital cadastral data, which covers Yukon, Northwest Territories, and Nunavut. It has over 2,600 Indigenous reserves and Canada's national and historic parks. So this data is maintained weekly by NRCan, and Esri Canada aggregates it into a single feature service that we maintain. So this also has an added value service, which hyperlinks out to the electronic registry index plan site, survey plan details, and the various land registry systems for the reserves. And because this falls under Canada's open government license, it's completely unrestricted. So if you consume cadastral data from NRCan or use any of their other parcel-related searches, we'd recommend taking a look and seeing if it might help improve your workflows. Now, there's a really great demo that's on the website there, and I'd highly recommend taking a look at it. We were going to do that here, but I know we're running out of time, so it is available for anyone to take a look at if you might be interested. So with that, with the last few minutes, let's just do some wrap up and some final thoughts. So a couple of resources. Esri Canada has put together a number of story maps that cover a lot of the content that we covered today, and they're all hyperlinked. So once this is complete, the links will be sent out. There's also the Parcel Fabric meetup that Esri Inc. hosts that has a lot of great parcel information. There's some links to the user conference, and in terms of webinars, that Parcel Fabric meetup that I mentioned before that the City of Mississauga and Esri Canada did together, that's linked there and is accessible for anyone to go and view. And if you're looking for a way to start easing your way into ArcGIS Pro, there's a really great Esri Canada training for migrating ArcMap to ArcGIS Pro. This doesn't cover parcel-specific things, but is a great place to get started. So thanks everyone for joining us. I know Dave has been answering questions in the Q&A, and if there's any remaining questions, feel free to send us an email, parcels@esri.ca, or if you're interested in speaking with the City of Mississauga, Jim Silburn from the City of Mississauga would be a great contact for you. Thanks so much. Have a wonderful day.